Yeah, we are continuing
Ski.
10 where we left out at. Henry thought it's going crazy.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please have a seat.
He said, yeah, like he had an attitude.
Can you please spell your name?
Wojciechowski, ADAM, WJCIECHOWSKI.
So exactly like it sounds, huh?
Just like it sounds.
How are you currently employed?
I'm a deputy with the Clinton County Sheriff's Department.
And how long have you worked for the Clinton County Sheriff's Department?
6 years.
Have you worked anywhere else in law enforcement?
No.
Can you briefly describe your educational background and the training you've received for your position?
I have a bachelor's degree from Ashford University, and then I have also a master's degree in business from Ashford University. I graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy in 2017. Like I said, Clinton County Sheriff's Department is the only place I've worked since then. I was assigned to road patrol right out of the academy, and I've held that same position ever since.
What are your duties as a patrol deputy for the Clinton County Sheriff's Office?
It ranges for everything from handling day-to-day calls for service, serving civil papers, interviews, traffic stops, normal patrol, things like that.
And were you working in this capacity back on March 22nd of 2021?
Yes.
And what shift were you working that day?
That would have been night shift.
What hours does the night shift cover?
So we work 12-hour shifts, so it's 6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
And at some point, were you dispatched to the area near Kuhnau Implements?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time you would have been dispatched to that area?
Approximately what time? No, but it was right around the time I did come on shift, so I think it was around. Yeah, I think so.
And do you know why you were dispatched to that area?
Originally, it came out as a call for service for a possible body that was found.
Now, are you familiar with the area near Kuhnau Implements?
Yes.
Do you know the approximate address of that area?
Not the approximate address. The area where the body was supposedly found doesn't really have an exact address, but it's between 212th, 218th Street and 270th Avenue. It's just right off Highway 61. It's visible from the highway on the east side.
So you knew where to go when you were dispatched to that area?
Yeah, I knew exactly where to go when they said that it was at the pond just south of Kuhnau.
What did you observe when you first arrived at that location?
When I first arrived, I met with the caller. There were two gentlemen that were down there fishing that called in that they had found possibly a skull, possibly a body.
And do you recall their names at all?
No.
Does the name Brendan Rogge sound familiar?
Yeah, Rogge. I think it was like Rogge or Rogie.
And when you arrived, where were they located?
They were standing up on the road.
Do you recall which road?
Oh, yeah, it's 270th Avenue. It's a gravel road.
Now, right next to you here is State's Exhibit 41, and there is a pointer on your left as well. First of all, you're familiar with what's being depicted in State's Exhibit 41?
Yes.
What is it?
It's a map, a location of Kuhnau, and also the wooded area to the south where the body was found.
In March of 2021, what was the vegetation like in this particular area?
Yeah, so the vegetation in March is, it's obviously very light, just tree branches, some heavy, thick bushes.
Is it like that all year round?
No, in the summertime, springtime, and then like late fall, it's pretty thick in terms of leaf coverage, foliage. Like the satellite picture is shown there, you can see like really well. In the summertime, you wouldn't be able to really even see the pond.
Now, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 42.
He looking out nervous.
Once you made contact with the callers, describe for us how you would have proceeded at that time.
Well, once I spoke with the callers, I told them to stay up on the road, which would be right around here. And then I walked down this path, because that's what I said where the body was located, right about there. So I didn't obviously want them to go with me. I wanted to try and preserve whatever was there. When I located the area where they said the body was, I did notice that there was a human skull sitting up, what looked like to be on the chest of the body. And then there was some black hair coiled up right underneath the skull.
Now, you had indicated with a pointer your path of travel, just for the purposes of the written record. Did you point to it appears to be two different driveways?
Yeah, so this driveway here it's pretty much vertical. It's kind of like a ramp that people go off of, I think, with ATVs. You can kind of notice how it's even a little like it's a little tighter. It's not like a car would go up and down there. And then this one here is still pretty vertical, but you would need like a SUV or a truck to get down there.
And the first driveway you were talking about, the way this is depicted would be
That one?
yes. Is that, I guess, the southern driveway on this road?
Yep.
Okay. And then the first one, the one that you actually walked down, that would be the northern.
That one.
I'm calling it a driveway. Is that what you would refer to it as?
Sure.
Okay. So you had walked down that path. Is there a reason you didn't drive?
I didn't want to get stuck.
Were you in a department issued squad car that day?
I was in a Ford Explorer, but like I said, it's still pretty vertical. And I was also thinking from a preserving the crime scene standpoint, if I drive down there in a car, I don't really see what I'm driving over. I prefer to walk.
Had the people you met with directed you to the general area where they believed they had found a body?
Yeah, from the road, they stood over by the driveway, as you said, the northern one, and they pointed right for where kind of for me to go. One guy actually kind of walked a little bit with me, and then I excused him to go back up to the road.
And again, with the pointer, can you show us where then you would have walked?
I would have walked right down this path and then into this area here. You can't really see it again because of the trees, but there's actually a rock formation right here, kind of like a 15-foot wall. Originally, this area was an old quarry test site.
And so once you got to that area, I believe you said you did see a skull.
Yes.
Were you able to determine if it was a human skull or anything along those lines?
Yeah, I determined that it was a human skull just from looking at it. I probably got within a few feet and kind of stood over it. 4 or 5 feet, I'd say, is about the closest I got to it.
And you also observed some hair?
Yes, I observed some black curly hair.
Do you recall observing any other skeletal remains at that time?
Yeah, like I said, you could kind of see the chest, and then I would think part of like a leg. And based on what I was seeing and the size of the skull, I thought that it was a small body, possibly a child.
Do you recall seeing any clothing at that time?
No. Excuse me, I did see a flip-flop to the right. I believe it was white or pink.
based on the hair, were you able to make any sort of determination about the ancestry of that hair?
Based on the curliness of the hair and the way that it looked, I thought that it could be an African-American type person.
Were you familiar with a missing child case out of Davenport involving Breasia Terrell?
Yes.
Now, back in July of 2020, had you assisted with any of the searches in the Clinton County area?
Yes. I was assigned to like the southwest area down by the Wapsie.
And so when you arrived at this location and you're observing these skeletal remains, and you've already testified it appeared small, like a small child,
Mm-hmm.
what were you thinking at that time?
I immediately thought that it was Breasia Terrell.
So at that point, how did you proceed?
Well, at that point, I told dispatch over the radio that it's confirmed to what the call for service had stated. I didn't say over the radio that it was a body. I didn't want people that use scanners to know what was really going on. I wanted to keep it quiet. So I told them that had been confirmed. And then I used my cell phone to call dispatch to notify my sheriff, Bill Greenwald.
Once you notified your sheriff, then how did you proceed?
So then I immediately used some police tape to kind of make a quarantine safe zone around the scene.
And approximately what size of, I guess I'm going to call it a perimeter, would you have?
Yeah. So I used like I said before, there's that rock wall to the north. I kind of used that as my northern base for the perimeter. And then I made a horseshoe going around the trees, maybe like 40 feet away from the body in all directions. I went all the way down to where the pond's located on the southwest, and then I went to the east and then back up to the north.
What was the purpose of doing that?
To preserve and to keep people out.
While you were doing that, did more law enforcement arrive on scene?
Yes.
Do you know which departments those law enforcement agencies were from?
Yep, so some more deputies had arrived from our department, and then also the Davenport Police Department. Clinton Police Department also arrived to help with the perimeter. Several DCI agents arrived on scene.
Once you established that initial perimeter, what was the rest of your involvement there on scene?
The rest of my involvement for that night was to do a log to keep track of who came and went. I did that for a few hours, and then I was told by my sheriff to pass that log off to Davenport. So then they became responsible for tracking who came and went. Like I said earlier, our shifts are 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I stayed on scene till midnight, and then another deputy came from midnight to 6 a.m.
Now, you've testified that you're familiar with this particular area.
Yeah.
Is this a well-traveled pond?
No.
Is this an area that, the roads are, I guess, well-traveled themselves as well?
Well, that's the thing. This is a well-traveled area in terms of roads. Like 218th, 212th Street, yes, 270th Avenue. If you kind of want to think of it as like a back alleyway that goes behind Kunow, which creates kind of like a pie-shaped property. Really, nobody uses that gravel road very often, I would say. But then you also have Highway 61 there, which is also traveled a lot. So it's in a very centralized location in our county. But I bet people don't even know it's there for the most part.
The pond area, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
And again, you described the vegetation and how it changes throughout the year. If you're driving on 270th Avenue.
Yeah, Rhea did. I'm gonna have to stop right here because I had to go to work. this case is getting interesting, and then I see how they moving about in the case. I see how they moving around, picking and and putting it in. They working around a lot of things that's gonna throw you out and gonna throw you in, so you really have to pay attention to what they saying. Y'all like, share, and subscribe, and I'll be back later. I'm out.